This is NDDC Today.
Hello, nice to have you with us. The NDDC each day inches forward in actualizing its raison d'etre. As it grapples to provide infrastructures that will drive development, it is also fully conscious of the little interventions that can bring immediate relief to the people of the area. Thus, donations of medicine and medical equipment, transformers to ease electricity supply, vehicles to provide security and mobility, and so on. It even now has to consolidate its hold on the 9 mandate states by building state offices. The big story today, however, is the rather panoramic Ibeno Bridge, a solid example of what local know-how can achieve. This is NDDC Today. I am Patrick Oke. Now to the news update, where the NDDC continues to fulfill its promise of providing ideal accommodation for its tertiary institution students. The NDDC is now home in Rivers State with the commissioning of the Rivers State office. And the NDDC finds herself representing the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, as the First Lady comes to the rescue of the underprivileged, donating food items to widows and the disabled.
Mrs. Ibem Seminatari, representing the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, recently in Port Harcourt donated food items to the less privileged, widows and people living with disability in Rivers State. Mrs. Seminatari handed over bags of rice, cartons of custard, gallons of vegetable oil, cartons of tomato paste and cartons of noodles to these expectant beneficiaries in the spirit of Ramadan. The NDDC boss commended Mrs. Buhari for promoting the spirit of sharing in the country and providing succor to people in difficulty. She said the gesture is a display of the special affection of Mrs. Buhari for the downtrodden.
We are here on the directives of the wife of our father, of our president, Hajia Aisha Muhammad Buhari. She has asked that I join the members of the DOC to give to you for onward distribution to our faithful party officials these items in the spirit of the Ramadan season.
Receiving the food items, the Rivers State APC chairman, Dr. Davis Ikanya, expressed appreciation to the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, for showing love and kindness to vulnerable people across the country. According to Mrs. Seminatari, the gesture from the president's wife also extended to those in the prisons, as 7 indigent inmates were released after their fines were paid by Mrs. Buhari. She said the initiative was starting from Port Harcourt prison because that is the most congested prison in Africa, so she thought it was better to start there. And that, of course, shows the commitment of Mr. President to ensuring that everybody in Nigeria felt a touch of the presidency. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, is always partnered with stakeholders in the 9 mandate states to seek various ways to intervene in disease control and elimination. On this recent occasion of the endowment of the NDDC Professorial Chair on Malaria Research at the Council Chambers, Senate Building of the University of Port Harcourt, the NDDC Chief Executive Officer noted that malaria remains one of the greatest public health challenges, with global estimates of 584,000 deaths in 2014 and 400,000 deaths in 2015, with most of the victims being children who live in sub-Saharan Africa. She also assures that the Management Committee of the NDDC is taking a stand in the fight against malaria by partnering with the Center for Malaria Research and Phytomedicine of the University of Port Harcourt.
The Niger Delta Development Commission has always partnered with stakeholders in the 9 mandate states to seek various ways to intervene in disease control. This is most critical because the Niger Delta has suffered for so long the misfortune of not getting support towards research in the region. Our job at the NDDC is to be a catalyst to drive development in the region.
Earlier, the Vice-Chancellor of the university, who was represented, says that the centre will have facilities that will push the research to the next level. He also hinted that the institution is happy to partner with NDDC in finding solutions to the problem of malaria crisis. Professor Nimi Briggs, Emeritus, speaking, says the university is expected to impact on the community where it is situated. She noted that the research became necessary because malaria is prevalent in these parts of the world and pregnant women and children suffer most. The acting managing director was decorated with a professorial muffler, signaling a partnership that promises to curb the menace of malaria in the region and the country at large. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has expressed a desire to vacate all rented office spaces across the 9 states of the region, including its headquarters office. This decision led to the commissioning of the NDDC River State Prototype Office by the acting managing director, Mrs. Ibeno Seminitary, in Port Harcourt recently. Speaking at the commissioning of the edifice, which is situated along Olu-Obasanjo Road, Mrs. Seminitary noted that the NDDC, as it commissions the state office, is celebrating its success, celebrating a milestone, and celebrating a commitment to making a difference not only in the lives of the people of the Niger Delta region, but also in the lives of members of staff as well. She says that the Commission is determined to create tranquility through elaborate development of human and natural resources. Mrs. Seminitary says that the new office, which is designed and completed with the members of staff in mind, has changed the skyline of Port Harcourt in a good way. The complex has provisions for several facilities, including a large reception hall, conference multipurpose hall for 250 people, staff canteen, sick bay, and offices for drivers on the ground floor. Each of its 4 floors has ample space for offices and a basement floor for archiving and car park. It is also designed to accommodate about 120 members of staff, with unique office suites for the state representative and the director of the state office. Also, it has provisions for some head office directorates such as commercial and industrial development, agricultural and youths, sports and women affairs. It is indeed a worker's delight, she says. Earlier, Eze Victor Woluchem, the paramount ruler of Rebisi Kingdom, said it is fortuitous that the state office in Port Harcourt is the first to be commissioned out of the 9 NDDC states. He commended the acting MD for doing a good job at the commission and for achieving this feat. The Rebisi monarch assured that there will be no form of youth restiveness because peaceful negotiation is the only tool the people know. Earlier in his welcome address, the NDDC Director, River State's Office, Mr. Benson Udo Asubop, noted that the new office will enhance staff responsibility and commitment to duty. He says that it will also ensure a sincere and undivided commitment to effective service delivery. Prior to the commissioning, Mrs. Seminitari took a tour of the complex, inspecting all the facilities to ensure that quality work was done before she can officially commission the building.
For the benefit of the staff of the Rapid Office, for the glory of the Revisi Kingdom, we commission this River State Office in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Welcome back to NDDC Today. Now, the NDDC continues to make inroads with style into hitherto uncharted territories of the Niger Delta. For decades, Ibeno, one of the most prominent oil-producing communities in Akwa Ibom State, has been unknown and untrodden. Its vast fishing layout of villages and settlements and its linear forest of 129 kilometers totally unappreciated. Not to talk about the millions of tons of fish caged from the national market due to inadequate outlet. Now, all that has changed. Our main story.
The 600 meters bridge, a magnificent feat of engineering, embellishes the Ibeno terrain with an elegance rare in the Niger Delta. This is a product of years of yearning. The peculiarity of many communities in the Niger Delta is the dearth of the means of communing and commuting, even among themselves. With subsistent lifestyles devoid of ambition, such peculiarities were to a large extent accepted and condoned in the past. You lived the life the way you found it. Exposure and enlightenment, however, have thrown up agitations. Far-flung and isolated communities are no longer at ease. The yearning for integration and a more active participation in the national economic life for a better life is now overpowering. More so in the light of the realization that some of these restive villages and settlements house the wealth which has made other parts of the country look so glamorous and attractive. The thinking here is that successive governments and multinationals have not done enough. A sense of neglect is still felt.
Since oil was discovered in the Niger Delta in 1956, the entire country were more interested in the oil than the environment and the people. The result was, we took the crude oil, we forgot to give the people water. We flew in within the deltas, we forgot to give them access road. We built posh houses for oil workers and forgot the owners of the land. So they live in thatch houses in the place.
Ibeno is one of the local government areas with the highest deposit of crude oil in Nigeria. It is number 1 in Akwa Ibom State. Geographically, Ibeno occupies the largest mangrove swamp forest in the Atlantic waters that occupy the little parts of Nigeria. This forest of more than 129 kilometers harbors the largest fishing settlement on Nigeria's coastline. Over the years, the socio-economic potentials of the people living within and across the communities that dot the creeks of this Kwa Ibo River has been limited by forces of underdevelopment, to say the least. Linking with kith and kin and other parts of the state has been a problem for decades. The aquatic terrain in which they find themselves in pose serious challenges. Movement of persons and goods by canoes and motorized boats have their limitations, even to those who can afford their cost. Lucky for the people of Ibeno, The NDDC, as a catalyst of the federal government, mandated to develop the Niger Delta, swung into action in early 2004 to solve Ibeno's major logistic problems, with the award of one of the Commission's flagship star projects, the Iko, Atabrikan, Opolom Iwachan Road and Bridges. The mangrove debacle must be finally breached. The first phase of this multi-billion naira road and bridges project had the scope of 6.87 kilometers virgin road cutting through the mangrove forest and a 600 meters span bridge. As it turns out, the project links the peaceful people of Ibeno by road and bridges with their neighboring towns and villages in eastern Obolo and beyond, drastically cutting travel time and providing the means of mass evacuation of produce. These people are basically fishermen and farmers whose produce are required upland. To underscore the importance of the project to the people of Ibeno, Akwa Ibom State and the nation at large, the board of the NDDC proved their determination and invited the then sitting president, Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, to the water shores of Ibeno for the project's groundbreaking and flag off.
This road project that you are saying, and the contractor has had to excavate up to 7 meters of mud before sand filling. So what you are standing on right now is 7 meters high of sand. So it's a lot of work. And this is a local contractor, 100% Nigerian, and we're very proud of the work he's doing.
The importance of this road can never be overemphasized. There are 38 communities that live opposite where we are now, at Ibeno, the other side. And prior to this time, these communities never had access road to their places. They cross this river to see their kids and kins in this other side of the road. And they do that 2, 3, 4 times virtually every day. You see, with this road passing through, it becomes very easy.
To justify the Commission's huge annual budget for this project over the years, both the Commission and the project contractor have come under strict monitoring and supervision from all concerned authorities and stakeholders. From the Presidential Monitoring Committee at some point, to the Senate and Houses of Representative Committees on the Niger Delta, boards of the Commission, the media, and even some international observers. It was indeed the star project in Akwa Ibom State. In many visits to the project site by different groups, committees, and members of separate boards, many expressed their satisfaction and hope for the project, although initially bedeviled by many problems.
I have directed is that it will not be business as usual. It will not be business as usual. For any contractor handling our projects, the abandoned site is not accessible. Whatever the problems have been bedeviling these projects, after today's visit, there's definitely going to be a change for the better.
3 years ago, 2013 to be precise, the NDDC announced the completion of the first phase of the project. It was a dream come true, the first road and bridge project ever planned by any government or agency of development to cross this daring, swampy mangrove terrain in order to liberate the region. The joy of the communities across the Kwa Ibo River knows no bounds.
It's a great project that, if completed, will make life very easy for all of us. I believe even my youths, they're always thanking God. Thank God it is in our own time. that the federal government has been able to remember us like this.
We thank NDDC too much. We thank them very too much because they have made us to get road and they have made us to be happy also.
This bridge and roads have brought a new lease of life to all the coastal communities around Ibeno. The economy and the social life of the people has just taken a sudden leap. The new access road is now stretching the communities far into the mangrove swamp. New buildings are on the rise on the project main alignment, thereby giving land speculators in the communities new business deals.
This is my house. So now before, there is no way to link from that junction to this place. Now so many people, now they begin to buy land. Before, land was very cheap because nobody come in here, but now people begin to come this side and buy land. Before, the land was 100,000 naira, but now land don't cost up to 500 to 1 million. Now you cannot buy land along this road. There's no land where you can buy up to 300 or 400 or 500,000. You from 700 to 1 point something million, especially the tar road. We love the environment and the road bring the environment very serious.
Nkorotip. This community is one of the direct beneficiaries of the Ibeno Road and Bridges project. The bridge terminates at the entrance of the village that was once known as Nkorotip town. But with the coming of the road and bridge, the name Nkorotip town is now Nkorotip city. The economic livelihood of the people here is basically fishing. Life here, like in any other villages and fishing settlements around, now breathes a sigh of relief, as locals can now access markets in major villages and towns upland without hassles.
I was a teacher, but now I am a fisherman. Before this bridge, no come, with a paddle for hand. They suffer too much, but as this bridge come, now motor can carry me to port to sell my fish, can carry me anywhere to Aba, to anywhere I want to go. So this bridge is too much for us at Nkorotip city.
Formerly, we will suffer a lot in this very village to go out and to come in. But by God's grace, government come and help us build that bridge as you pass with their motor come and reach here. Had it been before like 1990, you cannot come without enter boat. Boat will take you down here. We will very suffer.
Without roads and bridges, coastal communities can hardly get the desired development. Until the completion of the NDDC Road and Bridges project, secondary education here in Nkorotip was a dream that never came to pass. Only children of those that could afford the cost of boat transportation to cross over the Kwa Ibo River to Ibeno without minding its anticipated hazards could get secondary education. This challenge forced many to abandon their academic pursuits and terminate them at the primary level, which is the highest level of education in Nkorotip until today. Today, all students seeking secondary education can now leave Nkorotip to Atabrikan in less than 15 minutes on motorbike for those who can afford the fare. Others choose to walk through the bridge on foot. The same journey that took approximately an hour before now.
In our community, we have only primary school and nursery school. We don't have secondary. That's why we are crossing the water to go to secondary school at Iwechang. I'm schooling at secondary grammar school, Iwechang. And it was so difficult to us students. It was so difficult for us for our transportation way, and the bridge now coming, and it's very easily for us. Even though you have transport, you just trek on your leg to go and reach the school at the normal time. Even thank God for what He done to us, because we will suffer a lot. We will suffer a lot. And thank God for this beautiful something that He gave to us.
In spite of tight budget constraints facing the NDDC over the years, the Commission has kept her promise to deliver the Phase 2 segment of the Ibeno Iwechan Road and Bridges project in no distant future. On October 2, 2015, the NDDC board then flagged off the last phase of the Road and Bridges project in a colorful ceremony. Ibeno to Iwechan was agog. Community leaders, women groups and youths trooped out in their numbers to grace the occasion in a show of solidarity with the NDDC, the commission that truly cared about their development. The troubles and challenges any contractor must pass through to conquer the mangrove swamp to deliver a standard motorable road and bridges as seen in Phase 1 of the project can only be explained by those with the experience. The millions of metric cubic feet of sand required to sand-fill the excavated depth of over 8 meters of the daring mangrove swamp comes from a location more than 15 kilometers away from the project site. Guess how they source the sand for filling? From an incredible source: the beach. These successes, which the Commission recorded in the first phase of this mega project, are there for everyone to see. To achieve the same in the second phase is a task which the NDDC and the contractor must accomplish. On a visit to the start of the second phase, the acting MD NDDC explained why payment to some contractors were delayed.
They were notified that that was the policy of the organization because we were at a point where contractors were running war with APGs. So the management at that time took a policy not to mobilize, and therefore contractors had to show that they had capacity to do their jobs, and then after they have earned the IPCs, they would then get paid.
All that hurdle have now been overcome. The NDDC is poised to deliver the second phase as good as the first.
This Phase 2 is approximately 3-kilometer road. We have a culvert at chain age 550. We have a bridge that exists at chain age 750. The bridge is a 6-span bridge, and very soon we'll be at the bridge point. But we have already crossed the culvert point. We are filling a width of 20 meters, and we removed unsuitable materials for a width of 30 meters. And we do a maximum depth of about 6.5 and a minimum depth of about 5. So long as we have unsuitable material, we're constantly removing.
Who says the Niger Delta coastal communities cannot be developed due to their natural difficult terrains? Decades ago, communities like Nkorotip and many others could only hope for government assistance, with motorized transportation boats that never came or that were mismanaged. For decades, the rights of the people to a motorable road and bridge never mattered to those who should have listened. The NDDC's hand of love that stretches across the Kwa Ibo River has not only changed the skyline of communities trapped in the swampy mangrove terrain of the Ibeno coastline, but has dramatically changed the economic and social status of the entire region, more than one can ever imagine. When the entire project, including all its connecting spurs and linkages, are concluded, Nigeria's largest oil-producing local government should really begin to enjoy its rightful status.
This fantastic hand of love has changed the Ibeno landscape and the lives of its environs forever. Its effect, however, will be complete when all the linkages are done and the second phase is successfully completed. The NDDC continues to make a difference. Thank you for joining us. Call us on the numbers on your screen for valuable feedback or just plain interaction. So, on behalf of the NDDC Today crew, we say thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week.